I wanted to do something a little bit differently today and share a bit of a personal story, a personal anecdote about me and one of my funding experiences, because I know it's going to be incredibly valuable for you guys and girls out there who are either funded, maybe wanting to get funded, or have lost funding, because I'm going to share one of the some of the lessons and the things I learned, and probably the things that I didn't do too well picking up this round of funding, because I know they're going to be incredibly useful and valuable for you guys and girls. Anyway, this particular round of funding was a private investment deal, not something I recommend necessarily. And the only reason I went down this path was because it was a while ago, and it was before a lot of the prop firms were around, or before I was even aware of prop firms, to be completely honest. I think nowadays we're spoilt for choice with prop firms. I think they're great options, and I highly suggest that. So I'm not at all recommending doing what I did. But anyway, I picked up a group of investors, and we pulled together a 6-figure investment. And at this point I was trading a particular strategy and was doing quite well with it. And I had a bit of a track record on it. But one thing and one key lesson was that I didn't experience enough seasons within the market with that particular strategy. So I didn't necessarily have experience in multiple different seasons, in particular challenging bear markets or corrective markets. But I had traded that strategy quite well and had some great profits and results with it. So I went up and I picked up the round of investment. And I also, in a sense, looking back on it, set unrealistic expectations in the eyes of my investors. And this is probably not something you really need to worry about if you're going for prop firm funding, but if you're doing some sort of a private deal, I think it's really important to set grounded, realistic, even in a sense, lowered expectations, and really over-deliver with your results. And I did the exact opposite. I set unrealistic expectations and I under-delivered, which obviously for those guys and girls who've been following me for a little bit know that that leads to some emotional volatilities. Anyway, so I picked up the round of investment, and we ended up terminating the contract sometime later, 12 months or so later. And the end result wasn't all that bad. It was actually fine, but it was one of those times where I took it very, very tough. This was a few years ago now. I was a lot less experienced. I didn't really know all the mindset things that I know now. And I personally had unrealistic expectations on the whole situation. And I was going into that deal thinking that this was the deal. This was the thing that was gonna make it for me, my trading career, et cetera, et cetera. And losing that funding or giving that funding back was so disappointing and so disheartening, because having a look back on it now, it's interesting to see how I reacted in that time looking back on it now. But it's very obvious to see that I had unrealistic expectations of myself. I had unrealistic expectations of the market. I had unrealistic expectations in the whole particular situation. And I just had this fantasy that I couldn't let go of when I gave the money back. And that was depressing. That was really, really upsetting for me. And not that the situation was bad, it was more so I didn't have the understanding that I have now, and I didn't deal with it very well. So there were a couple lessons that came from this that I would love to share. The first lesson that came from this whole experience, when I look back on it and I have a look, all right, from that time I lost the funding to now, how did that actually serve me? How was that a benefit to my trading career? How was that a benefit to my overall life? The first key benefit or gain that I got from that experience was an understanding that I didn't necessarily want to rely solely on trading as a source of income. I didn't want trading to be the only thing that I had in my life. And that experience, prior to that experience, I was very, very focused, very laser focused on it. And I was in a sense a little bit blinded to, for me personally, that would be the only source of income. And this may not be the case for everybody out there. Again, I'm just sharing a personal anecdote, but I know for me, it was important to have additional businesses, additional services that I offered to people, because trading alone wasn't fulfilling for me. And there's this beautiful quote that I love that says that every conscious decision made for you is an unconscious decision made by you. And what that pretty much means is that funding being taken away from me, I, in a sense, co-created that event in my life, because I intuitively knew how unsustainable that was for me. And losing that funding was an opportunity for me to go more into a service or establish more of a service-based business and service to help other traders do what I do now effectively. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for that experience, in other words. And I can see very much the benefit of that was that it made me aware that I didn't want trading to be my only thing that I did for both fulfillment and for income. I found for me personally, at least the way I trade, the sustainability of the style isn't necessarily something I want to be reliant on for my life, for my personal income, etc., etc. It's a great turbo boost, it's a great additional source of income, but I didn't want that to be my primary or my only source of income. And on top of that, I didn't necessarily find that whole situation necessarily fulfilling for me. I knew deep down that I wanted to go off and help other people and do some sort of service-based business and really provide value to people's lives in whatever way, shape, or form that may be. I knew I wanted to do that. And the losing of that funding really pushed me towards that. So lesson number one for me is it made me aware of the unsustainabilities of just trading for myself. Again, that may not be the case for everybody, but this is my personal story. The second thing it made me aware of is the importance of having a proper mindset, a proper head screwed on your shoulders, and in a sense, the importance of mastering your trading mindset. And when I come off and share things on YouTube or when I'm in my programs, in a sense, I create these videos for that younger version of me. Those things, the things that I say are exactly what I needed to hear a few years ago when I picked up that funding. The things that I share on YouTube and in my 12-week challenge, for example, are exactly the things I needed back then to help ensure I had the proper head screwed on my shoulders, to ensure that I could deal with the emotional volatilities that I would go through, to ensure that I balanced my expectations and I had the proper tools and I had the proper insights and the proper guidance on how to deal with these things psychologically. So the second lesson I really learned from that whole experience is the importance of mindset. And that experience was a big catalyst for me going deeper into my studies of human behavior and psychology and really creating the tools and understandings that I share now. And it highlighted to me the importance of having that. It highlighted the importance of ensuring that traders, myself in that situation, had the proper tools, had the proper understandings of their own psyche. And in a sense, trading mindset and trading does get pushed to the back burner, at least initially. But I really hope that what I'm doing with the YouTube and what some other people in the industry are doing is bringing a level of awareness to the importance of mindset. Because if you make a lot of money with a poor mindset or poor foundations in your psychology, that won't be fulfilling for you. And you're more likely to lose it. You're more likely to do things that you're going to later regret, etc., etc. But if you have the proper foundations in place, it ensures that you're more sustainable with your trading and you're more long-term and you can sustain what it is you do for the long term. So the two lessons I really learned from that experience, first and foremost, how important it was for me to diversify my income and what it is I do, for fulfillment and for income. That's for me personally. That may not be for everybody though, like I've said. The second thing it highlighted for me is the importance of having a proper mindset. I think this goes for pretty much everybody out there. I think traders are at different stages of awareness with their mindset, but I think without a doubt, most traders out there need some sort of greater education on the mindset. And I hope I do that with the YouTube. I hope I do that with the 12-week challenge as well. So those are really the two key lessons. When I look back on the experience, if I had the opportunity to change anything about it, I wouldn't. It was really the perfect catalyst in my life to push me to do what it is I do, and to have ultimately a more sustainable model with my life. So hope this was insightful. Hope this was, some source of insight into my mind and maybe some form of value to some of you guys out there. But I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.